behind. They're all fired up. What we got to do? First place, our defense has got to go out there and take the ball. Then when we get the ball, we got to have 11 people that's going to do their job and try to score every time you get the football. If we do that, we'll be all right. That will be all right.
Happy Monday, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Football University. Sorry, trying to get my chair squared away. Listen, it's the first Monday in this month, and we're excited to get it started. Listen, we got a few comments already rolling. Shouts out to my guy, Jeff Stapleton. We're going to keep the tradition going. Listen, we talk everything football here at Football University, and I try to be your de facto professor. And listen, like Jeff Stapleton says, Stallions are 6-0, roll tide. Stallions rolling huge in the UFL. They have big matchup with the XFL champs. Last year, we know the XFL and UFL merged before the USFL, and the XFL merged last year to form the UFL. It's been pretty good football. Spring football is always good. I'm always somebody who supports football as often as possible, but neither to say the least. Big matchup from the Birmingham Stallions. So for all you Stallions fans out there, giddy up. They have the XFL champions from last year, the St. Louis Battlehawks, and we know who their quarterback is, none other than the Alabama legend, A.J. McCarron himself, coming to Alabama. So I'm quite sure there's going to be a lot more Alabama fans there, a lot more fans and Stallions in Progressive Stadium in Birmingham. But shouts out to the Stallions doing their thing. Listen, Jeff Stapleton and Roll Tide. Like I said, we talk everything football from UFL, Alabama, NCAA, NFL. We cover it all here at Football University. It's basically a show for all the football heads. So thanks for joining me here on the CTS-Sports room. Listen, we have a whole slate of topics. Like Jeff Stapleton said, we've got a lot to happen. So we're going to discuss recruiting, portal news, some NFL news I'm kind of going to dive into earlier. But first and foremost, get in the comment section. I feel much appreciated when y'all are more interactive in the show. I have my topics, but you all do an amazing job. And thanks for tuning in. It's no show without you guys, the real MVP. So, but yes, Jeff Stapleton says, big recruiting weekend in UA. Matt, I know last week we had the defensive back from Wake Forest, Jones, I believe, in on official visit. Latest news I've heard, I think everybody said he's probably pegged to give us a lot more depth, come to Alabama, compete, give us a lot of more depth. Speaking of the portal, so he could be incoming portal guy. I heard maybe a possible of a lineman from Michigan State. and also some other portal guys. But can't discuss the portal without talking about the departures. I mentioned last week's show that Peyton Woodyard, the talented safety, I believe from California, who signed with the Alabama Crimson Tide, was the early enrollee, gave this team a chance, his new staff, but I guess he felt like, he needed to hop in the portal. So listen, this is the way the rules are. They allow it. But Peyton Woodyard eventually committed to Oregon with 4 years of eligibility, and guy who I thought was really going to compete this year, Tony Mitchell, the talented DB from Thompson High School. Now, a lot of these kids are going to different conferences because they cannot yet commit in the spring portal. They cannot commit to other SEC teams. So it's going to be interesting to see where this guy, Tony Mitchell, goes. So, hate to see these guys leave, but, it is what it is. It's an opportunity for somebody to have a bigger role. You look at guys like Draker Patrick Jr., Red Morgan, Keon Sabb, Brayson Hubbard. We got a lot of talented guys. Just don't have the experience. But listen, I think guys will have enough experience by week 2 and 3. I kind of want to address the portal, just kind of where things are standing right now, what I have heard regarding a few guys. Bob Rutherford says RTR, Bob Rutherford. I wanted to talk NFL. I want to shift gears to the NFL. Last week they had the draft. Had a lot to do with the draft last week. We discussed all the top guys and all the stuff, guys that signed free agents and all that good stuff. But I want to discuss the draft from this standpoint. Regarding next year's draft. Now, right now, so far, they are slating Alabama to only have 2 first-rounders, and a lot right now. This is just projection. I mean, I saw guys who didn't have Terrion Arnold in the first round, and look, he was the second DB off the board from last year's preseason projections. So I want to get in this year's this year's potential Alabama NFL draft first roundees. Now, I saw some other, once this year's draft in, other teams or other media outlets try to go ahead and do a mock draft for next year's draft. And one that I saw, it had a few quarterbacks going in there. And one of the mock drafts that I thought was pretty solid had Jalen Milroe go in the first round. Now, I think Jalen Milroe is going to do an amazing job this year under Kalen DeBoer, under Nick Sheridan, being able to throw the ball downfield, switch it up on teams, be able to just be offensive, more creative, a lot more dynamic, a lot more explosive down the field. So I wouldn't be surprised you see Miro improve if he continues to improve and work on his game. Like I said, get balls in the air, working on his accuracy, touch, decision-making, all that stuff. Sky's the limit for this guy. But I definitely see potential for him being a first rounder next year. And so right now in this mock draft that I have, it has him slated pick number 11 to the New Orleans Saints. I know we got a lot of Falcons fans out there, rise up, but listen, how cool would that be? You got in that NFC South division, you have Bryce Young with the Carolina Panthers. You have Kool-Aid McKinstry with the New Orleans Saints. You have in the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, you have Chris Braswell's rise up. Shouts out to the Falcons fans. You basically have a slew of Alabama guys, but right now they're predicting Milroe. He's probably the 4th quarterback taken. Right now I'm showing Carson Beck kind of being number 1. Then right after that, Shador Sanders. There's been a lot of controversy between Shador and Coach Saban. Not necessarily controversy, but maybe a little bit more backlash was how Coach Prime handled some guys transferring later. Last week. So right now they got Carson Beck. They got 4 quarterbacks in the top 32 in the first round next year. Carson Beck out of Georgia coming off the board first. They got him going to the Giants. I can see that, but I mean, I don't know if that moves the division. Shador Sanders, I think they got him going to the Raiders. The controversial comments from Dion, Coach Prime, saying, listen, Shador, Travis Hunter, the talented DB from Colorado. Coach Prime, now he could do this, but at the same time, I don't know if I would have said this because the draft you can't control. I don't think you're like, yeah, you're the GOAT, Coach Prime, but wouldn't be trying to tell guys, listen, Shador's only going to the Falcons, the Cowboys, or certain teams like that. I think at the end of the day, you want him to get drafted by whoever it is, whether it's not one of those teams. But Coach Prime, he can do that, But I just, if it was my kid or whatnot, I don't know if I would do that. But that's neither here nor there. So they got Shador Sanders, number 2 quarterback, coming off the board, going to the Las Vegas Raiders. And right after him, they have Quinn Ewers going to the Seattle Seahawks at 10. And then the 4th quarterback taken in the first round at pick number 11 will be Jalen Milroe. So, like I said earlier, I think Jalen Milroe, if he in this offense, I think he's going to be so much more explosive. I think one dynamic that he did not have previous 2 years, I don't think he had somebody, a quarterback coach, and I don't think he had somebody that really was just believed in him, believed in his skill set, encouraged him, really spend time to, help him develop. And I think that's why you saw a totally different quarterback this spring in DeBoer's offense. So let's get to a few comments before I go back to this NFL draft topic. Jeff Stapleton says, Bama's good on offense. We need defense cornerbacks to close the run lanes down. Yeah, I think I mentioned it last week that I think kind of one of my biggest concerns, I wouldn't say concern, but things I'm not used to seeing, I'll say it like that, was basically coming out of 8A, the defensive backs, the cornerbacks not being able to be physical at the line of attack. We know that's not what we've seen from our secondary, especially our cornerbacks the past, 17 years since Coach Saban's been there. He has a defensive back coach, but he's, he really works with the DBs, the corners. So I'm not used to that physicality. Now, one thing I hope that will happen will be Coach Saban still, kind of identifying some things, and maybe he can help Coach Mo Linguist on some, different type of drills, things that he worked on that really make his DBs so successful. That way, to your point, Jeff Stapleton, our DBs can be more aggressive in the scheme. This 4-2-5 swarm defense under Kane Womack. But I agree, there's got to be more physicality to stop the run. And I think it would come. I think it was a new scheme, new everything for these players. And I think it's going to come. I think the guys are going to put in the work in the offseason to get in that playbook and know how to make things translate in this transition to a new defense, that swarm defense. So, let's get to a few more. Velma Stuttermeyer, shouts out to Velma Stuttermeyer. She says, Roll Tide, back to you, Velma Stuttermeyer. Let's see. Jeff Saban said, this is the same guy who proclaimed he was the best coach in college football after he had a record of 3-9. I believe we were discussing Coach Prime. like I respect Coach Prime. I love Coach Prime. I love what he does. It is what it is now. As far as last week, and he caught a lot of backlash from him, Shador Sanders. Basically going after guys who transferred away from Colorado on social media. I think he called this guy maybe mid or something like that, and I think that got Coach Prime a little bit riled up on social media, i.e. Twitter. Some of the posts he said were regarding some guys. Now, I get it, but that's Coach Prime. He's more voyous. He's gonna let people know how he feels, but that's how Coach. That's basically Deion Sanders not being Prime. That's how he played. That's how he was at Florida State. That's how he was at the Falcons. That's how he was, doing the step after he picks guys off in the NFL, whether it's with the Cowboys or the 49ers. So this shouldn't come as a surprise. It's just because it's Coach Prime. He's going to get a lot of backlash from whatever you want to say, however. But, I wish I probably wouldn't have went after a guy or a player, but at the end of the day, I'm not Coach Prime. So Coach Prime, he is one of the best. But, I do think the Colorado will have a better record than what they showed last week. Now, it's going to be interesting to see how they adjust, what type of offense that they run up there in Colorado. The Buffaloes, they lost Dylan Edwards, the talented freshman running back who, went off last year versus like TCU and all those. He's going to play from his home state in Kansas with the Kansas. He just got in the portal and went to Kansas State. So it's going to be interesting to see how those Colorado Buffaloes, but I think Coach Prime, he'll have them with a better record, knowing he's got Shador and Travis Hunter. This is their last year, so they're going to get paid in the draft. So it'll be interesting to see how all this stuff works out. So let's get a few more comments. James Knox, shouts out to James Knox. He says RTR James Knox. M. Davis says RTR. Thank you for tuning in. RTR Watch. RTR Matt. RTR Watch. Cedric Caddell said, Roll Tide. Let's go. So let's go back to talking about next year's season draft. Now, they've got Jalen Milroe going number 11 to the Saints. I mean, he'll be so far preseason draft, mock draft for 2025. They got 4 quarterbacks. I gave you the list. Beck out of Georgia. Shador Sanders coming up next. The Vegas Raiders. Then the 3rd quarterback, Quinn Ewers. And then number 4 would be Jalen Milroe to the New Orleans Saints. Now, after that, they have no other Bama guys that I know of, but I'm going to tell you right off the bat, players to be on the lookout for the first round next year. Now, besides Jalen Milroe, guys like Jaden Roberts, offensive guard, Tyler Booker easily can be in the first round next year. Alabama produces really good first-round offensive line talent. You look at what J.C. Latham has done. You look at guys like Cam Robinson, Andre Smith. In the past, historically, Landon Dickerson, for instance, historically has put in big-time Alabama offensive linemen in the NFL. So those are another 2 names that don't be surprised they go in the first round. Jaden Roberts, I think he's the best offensive guard in the country. If you do it in the SEC against all the competition, to me, that just proves my point. Tyler Booker, I think, is going to have an exceptional, huge year at that other guard position. I think they're going to make a lot of stuff, or I think he might be at the tackle. I think if he solidifies that tackle, he can fly off the boards and get in the first round. So those are other 2 potential first rounders. Then you look at I think we're pretty young, maybe guys, but you shift to the defense. You look at guys like Jahai Campbell. I mean, a guy who I believe he can do so much defensively. He started coming out of high school as the edge rusher, but he's so athletic and so multiple and versatile that we moved him to inside linebacker. He was our best inside linebacker. His cover skills are insane. His read and react quickness, eye quickness is, and he plays physical style of football. So don't be surprised if Jihad Campbell's possible first round guy. And the only caveat I would give is this past year was a lot of offensive guys. So I think this next year's draft will be more defensive guys, and wouldn't be surprised if a linebacker with Jihad Campbell's versatility, who can play off the edge, in the box, at inside linebacker, his first round will be his first round grade will separate him from other linebackers is his versatility. So right now I have Milroe in the first, Booker, Roberts, and don't be surprised if guys like Jaden Roberts, guys who can have potentially huge years. Listen, you look at a guy like Dominique Jackson, if he gets like 4 or 5 picks, he could possibly come off the board. You look at what Terrion Arnold did last year. You look now. Let's get to the defensive front. Don't sleep on guys like Jaheim Otis. Listen, Tim Keenan, if he does crazy numbers this year, I think if he gets anywhere like 5 or 6 sacks, 7 sacks from the defensive tackle position, that would be huge. Guys like Jaheim Otis. Don't be surprised if any of those guys can easily go in the first round. So that's kind of my take right now for my NFL draft preseason NFL 2025 draft. So let's get to a few comments. James Knox says, "You're blowing my mind, Matt. The O-line will be a strength this year." I actually didn't think the offensive line would be a strength. I think because, listen, any improvement is an improvement from last year. You know, you look, Alabama was 129th in the country in sacks. With that bad, poor offensive line play, bad snaps, low snaps, probably leading the top 3 in the nation in the sacks. And yet we won the SEC championship, and yet we were in the college football playoff, and yet we were a couple plays from beating Michigan, going to the national championship. Listen, if we improve by 50 or 60 spots from the offensive line, I think our offensive line will be a strength. And listen, you think you got Parker Brailsford as center, the transfer from Washington. I believe he's going to be one of the top centers in the country. So interior, we are set. You've got guys. You got Tyler Booker, Jaden Roberts, kind of solidifying that core. 3 guys coming back with experience. You got guys possibly like Elijah Pritchett, Olas Alanine, Rock Montgomery, Miles McVay. We got Caden Proctor coming back. He's down. Coach Cap, I think he knows what he's doing at the offensive line position, and guys look so much better than what we've had the past 2 years. So I definitely do think, to answer your question, our offensive line will be light years better, much improved than last year. So great comment, James Knox. Douglas Caddell says RTR, Matt. Bobby Caddell says RTR. So staying on the theme of the NFL, I discussed my prediction for the draft next year and potential Alabama guys. Let's talk about guys that I didn't get to cover last week. This was kind of underrated NFL news, and we're going to discuss a lot of contract things regarding some players, that former Bama players. But listen, Christian Barmore, defensive tackles, a 2nd-round draft pick from Alabama, the talent defensive tackle. He got paid a 4-year deal, $92 million from the New England Patriots. I think that was the only time the New England Patriots really have paid somebody in their organization outside of Tom Brady. So that's just showing you it's a new regime, new front office. They're making sure they invest in their talented players. So kudos to Christian Barmore getting his second year deal. Now that he goes on the list of Alabama players getting paid. You look at Quentin Williams from the defensive tackle position. Quentin Williams got paid. Deron Payne got paid. Dalvin Tomlinson got paid. Christian Barmore just got paid. So we got a slew of defensive tackles that are getting paid. And I think this is a good look for guys like Freddie Roach, the defensive tackle coach, who does an amazing job. He can go to a recruit's house and say, listen, I got Christian Barmore paid. I got some other guys going in the first, second round that are getting paid. So, yeah, it's going to shouts out to Christian Barmore getting paid. So now let's transition to some other interesting Bama news coming out of the NFL. Speaking of contracts, now story broke today regarding Tua Tagovailoa, the talented quarterback out of Alabama from Hawaii that's with the Miami Dolphins. You know, he was the NFL leading passer last year. News broke today that the Miami Dolphins and Tua Tagovailoa have begun contract negotiations. Now, I do think Tua is going to get a very lucrative second, big-time contract. They're going to probably solidify him. From what I've heard, rumors is going to be like a 4-year deal, about $220 million max value with different incentives in there. But I don't know if it's going to be the highest paid. Will he get the Lamar Jackson money? Will he get the Joe Burrow contract? Will he get the Jalen Hurts contract? I don't know if it's going to be that high, but I do think it's going to be pretty close around there when Tua is probably going to get maybe, 50 mil this year, another 20 mil next year, and then after that, I'm just talking about just guaranteed money. So just wanted to highlight Tua getting paid. Now, it made me ask the question, do you think Tua deserves to be the highest paid quarterback in the NFL? Now, I wrote this down. I can give you reasons as to why he led the NFL in passing last year. So he was the passing yards leader. He was healthy last year. And, he is your franchise guy. So, why not pay him? You could make the argument, but at the same time, I can see why you wouldn't make the argument because, he did have the injury in the past. He did lead your team to the playoffs, but he hadn't led you to a Super Bowl like a Jalen Hurts or a Joe Burrow. So that could be the argument. But I do think Tua is going to get a lucrative contract for the Miami Dolphins. Get in the comments. Do you think Tua should be the highest paid or not? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section. So let's go to the comment section real quick. Let's see. Jeff Stapleton says 49 sacks on Milroe. Our snapper was a weak link. Matt, yeah, we all know. I mean, listen, I believe Jalen Milroe would have been even that much more of a quarterback last year if he had better snaps. You got to think, getting a snap at your ankles, then looking up, and your offensive line is probably top 3 and giving up sacks. You have a lot to manage. A lot is going on. You got to manage, not turning the ball over, reading what the defense give you, trying to evade a sack. So, to your point, if we do have better snaps, I do think that helps us marginally, probably about more efficient offense, maybe cuts down turnovers, maybe, cuts down some of those sacks, maybe by 10% or 20%. But either way, I think we will have better snaps under Coach Cap's leadership and having Parker Brailsford coming in. You're going to have freshmen coming in, guys like Casey Poe. We got a lot of freshmen, I believe, that can, or just guys on the team, period, that can fill in at the center position. So let's get to the next comment. Cedric Caddell says, running back room looks good. Really want to know about wide receiver. Yeah, I think the wide receivers is probably skill set offensively. Running backs are going to look real. I think all our skill set position groups offensively are going to look dynamic this year. Running backs, we have dynamic room, Jam Miller, Justice Haynes, Richard Young, Daniel Hill. I mean, those I don't think it's a better four in the country, in my opinion. I think they have the top running back room in the SEC, but we'll discuss that later. But then you look at the wide receiver, you look at the tight end position. I think we got a lot of talent. We return C.J. Dupree, Robbie Oots. We get the transfer Kavas from Washington. So we have a lot of guys, pieces we can fill in. But you mentioned the wide receivers. I think it's going to be so versatile. And, let's talk about the negatives. We did lose Jalen Hale to an injury during spring, but he did post today saying he's thankful to God to, see another day, and don't be surprised, that his comeback might be quicker than expected, especially with the advancement of medicine. Alabama sports medicine training staff, Jeff Allen, they second to none than other places, in my opinion. So don't be surprised. Jalen Hale comes back. Now, I don't know how much of an impact will he have, but outside of that, we lost Jalen Hale, but we got guys like Jeremy Bernard. He went over 100 yards, 8A, in the 8A. Him and Jalen Milroe look like they have a great connection in the receiver to quarterback connection. Excuse me. Jeremy Bernard, Kendrick Law. I think in this offense, we're finally able to utilize Kendrick Law to his strengths and a lot of motions in the backfield. He's truly going to be like a Deebo Samuel in our offense, kind of how like Kyle Shanahan uses Deebo Samuel. Jet sweeps, line him up in the backfield, line him up in slot, line him up in wide receiver, out wide. You're going to get a lot of that from Kendrick Law. Kobe Prentice, I think, is going to be another dynamic receiver out of Birmingham. Listen, I think he's just a big playmaker away. And I think he's been revitalized or re-energized in this Kalen DeBoer offensive system led by Jamarcus Shepard. And then you look at guys like Kendrick Law. I mentioned Kendrick Law, Kobe Prentice, Jeremy Bernard. Those are three guys right there. And then you look at the freshmen. You got Caleb Odom, who transitioned from tight end to receiver. He's going to be a movable chess piece that's going to play a lot of mismatches against defenses. You got guys like Bubba Hampton, the talented wide receiver out of Texas who can play DB. He's just a pure athlete. I heard he's an amazing route runner from Kobe Prentice himself. Then you look at guys like freshmen coming in, obviously, Ryan Williams. I mean, let's be real. Mr. Alabama, two-time Mr. Alabama, the talent out of Saraland High School. He's going to be coming for some playing time. Coach Kalen DeBoer was at a speaking event in Birmingham and already raved about how he cannot wait to utilize Ryan Williams, see him on campus. Then you got guys like Rico Scott, the talented receiver from Pennsylvania, I believe. And you have Amari Jefferson, another talented receiver. So, listen, we have a lot of pieces. We're going to be lethal at the receiver position. Don't forget about guys like Emmanuel Henderson. He made a lot of strides at receiver as well. So, maybe we slide a Jalen Mbakwe, give him some reps offensively and defensively. So, I think Alabama's going to be set regarding the wide receiver position. So hopefully that answers your question. Cedric Caddell, good to hear from you. Jeff Stapleton says, Matt, your thoughts on the Niners drafting Ricky Parcell, the talented receiver out of Florida. Listen, I think he's a really good receiver now. I saw some training video of him training with guys like Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, and he looked just as good, if not, I'm not gonna say better, but he looked right on par. And I was like, man, maybe that video going viral, maybe force guys like Kyle Shanahan to trade up and get him in the first round. I had him as a day 2 guy, but like I said previously, this was a deep receiving room draft class in the draft. So you had day 2, day 3 guys who were probably first round talents in any other year. But yeah, Ricky Parson, I think he's a really good pickup. There's a lot of smoke. Is he a insurance piece for possibly Brandon Ayuk being traded or things like that? But neither there. I think he's a talented receiver, and I think, I would love for him to be with the Dolphins. I think he fits perfectly with what Miami wants to do offensively, but he'll be successful with Kyle Shanahan, another weapon for Kyle Shanahan to be dynamic offensively, as if he needs more. So that'll be good. You have Ayuk, Kittle, Christian McCaffrey, obviously Brock Purdy at quarterback, Trent Williams at tackle, all pro. Now you have Ayuk, Deebo Samuel, and you got Ricky Parcell. Now you can really open up, create a little bit more creativity offensively. So, I think he's a solid receiver. I know he did amazing down in Mobile for the Senior Bowl. I know he really performed very well, really made a name for himself. Guys like Xavier Legette, who went 32 to the Carolina Panthers out of South Carolina, guys like Roman Wilson, who Alabama played. Those guys really stood out down there in Mobile in the Senior Bowl. But I think Parcell is really good receiver. So let's get a few comments. Thank you guys. Lori Caddell says, pay Tua. If Kirk can get paid, he can too. Listen, I don't know. Listen, if you look at Kirk Cousins' agent, he has gotten this guy paid everywhere he went. He got paid when he was with the Commanders. Then he got a big contract with the Minnesota Vikings. And now he's got an even bigger contract from the Atlanta Falcons coming off the ACL Achilles injury. So to your point, I think that's another reason that Tua can possibly be the highest paid. Now, I don't know if they'll make him the highest paid, but I do think he'll be up there pretty close. I think he'll be around the ballpark. It might not be $50 million a year. It might not be $45 million. It might be around 40, 39, $38 million a year that Tua will be bringing in from the Miami Dolphins. So wouldn't be surprised within the next, few weeks or so that they make a great lucrative deal with Tua Tagovailoa and the Miami Dolphins. So I'm excited for Tua. Like I said, I think it's going to be like a 4-year deal, probably like 100 or so, 90 million, 98 million, 97 million guaranteed. The bulk of it will be probably get so much guaranteed next year. He'll probably get 38 million, such and such like that. So, I think Tua deserves to get his money. He's proven, he's the NFL leading passer. I think he's projected this year with another year under Josh McDaniels' offense. They got a few more pieces. They signed OBJ, Odell Beckham, who had a pretty solid year with the Baltimore Ravens. Now he gets you another added weapon to really stretch the field offensively at the wide receiver position. Now, one thing I do think they need to identify is the tight end room. The tight ends room's been kind of meh, as they say, or mid, as they like to say. Now, they can get a pretty above average. I know they have Jonnu Smith. He's been pretty good, but he's kind of been on the decline. I don't know if it's because he was at New England or just because, maybe he had some injuries. But if he could have a successful year, that can really stretch the offense for the Miami Dolphins. And Tua, right now, Tua's projected to throw. He threw for 4,000 some yards last year. He's easily projected to throw for 5,000 yards this year. Obviously, that will put him at the NFL's leading passer. And if he can get like 5,040 some touchdowns and a few interceptions and keep his team in the top 3 of the AFC, he could easily be for MVP candidate. So throughout the year. So obviously he's just going to have to win those big games regarding the Miami Dolphins. Speaking of the NFL, this is what we do at Football University. NFL will be releasing schedule release on Thursday, I believe the 9th. So that's going to be very, very exciting. I cannot wait. Interested to see how these Bama players match up against each other. Any unique matchups. So I think Tua is going to have to play the Ravens. Obviously they probably have another matchup with the Chiefs. They probably have just see what different Bama teams. You look at, Houston Texans, D'Amico Ryans, mentioned the Atlanta Falcons, Jason McClellan, he's there with B. John Robinson, Bryce Young, the Carolina Panthers. What are they going to do? Will Anderson, the Texans, it's Kool-Aid McKinstry. I'm really excited to see what he's going to do with the New Orleans Saints. Obviously, Jalen Hurts, Tua, so many Bama guys, Devontae Smith, the list goes on and on. So tune in Thursday for the NFL schedule release. That's going to be so exciting. So let's get to a few more comments. This is amazing. He says, I think Miro should stomp the ground and start a play instead of clapping, which started the big boys. Those 5-yard penalties are game killers. Yeah, I just think that's just how it is. You can stomp, but you don't want to confuse your stomp with motion. 9 times out of 10, when a quarterback lifts his legs, it's for motion, and then that's going to be kind of hard for the center to see or your guard and tackle. So you got to look at the game. A lot of times, mostly everybody's going by claps, whether it's in the NFL, college, especially on the road. It's just an easier system. It's mostly everybody does it. Because Alabama has, when opposing, it's actually a penalty if the opposing defenses make clap. This just shows you how many teams use the clap motion to get the snap off. So, that's just the age of this offensive style of football that we're in. So I don't think stomping the foot, that's going to be hard to see or kind of execute playing in the away games, these loud SEC games, loud SEC home games. You're doing that motion already for motion. So 9 times out of time, it's either a leg or moving the arm, the hand gesture. How are you going to decoy? You're going to, you can really decoy guys with different type of fake cadences. Tua was very effective when it came to getting guys to jump off sides with fake claps and things like that. So, I think DeBoer and Nick Sheridan, these guys are not going to reinvent the wheel. I just think if you can get better snaps, I think that eliminates half the problem. If we can get better offensive line coverage, that eliminates another factor. And we have a more creative playbook where receivers can get open more so than what Tommy Rees did. And I think another factor is, as I mentioned earlier, Jalen Milroe has a coaching staff that really believes in him. Nick Sheridan, Kalen DeBoer, who's an offensive guru. So I think that's really going to play dividends for Jalen Milroe to be so effective offensively. So let's get to my next great comment there, Joe Stapleton. Let's get to my next comment or topic. So I mentioned Tua, Christian Barmore, still have some more NFL stuff to discuss. I want to discuss Najee Harris. Now, this is kind of a big story the NFL, the NFL, one of Blue Bloods, the Pittsburgh Steelers, declined for Najee Harris' fifth-year option, which, I was surprised by that because Najee Harris has been the only active running back in the NFL to run for over 1,000 yards in each season. So he's been very effective, and I don't know what the Steelers are thinking, but I would have picked up his option because you'd rather have a running back than not have Najee Harris, in my opinion. So you look at that division in the AFC North. Now you have Derrick Henry from the Baltimore Ravens. You got Bradley Chubb from the Cleveland Browns. Joe Mixon is no longer the running back for the Cincinnati Bengals. So I'm quite sure they're going to have a solid running back. And now you decline the option for Najee Harris. Me personally, I wouldn't have declined the option, but I'm not the NFL GM. But to me, that just goes to show you the devaluing of the running back position in the NFL. We know guys got played, Josh Jacobs and other guys are showing their essential, but at running back to produce, be the only active running back who rushed for 1,000 yards, I think he deserved to pick up his fifth-year option. In my opinion, if I'm a GM and he had that much production, I'm going to pay him because I'm telling you, Steelers, I know y'all got, Russell Wilson, Justin Fields, and all that guy. Try to doing it without Najee Harris in your backfield. It's not as explosive. So I would pay him, but decline that option. Now it opens up for teams possibly wanting to trade for Najee Harris. So that's why I said either you're going to decline him or give him a long-term deal, second contract, or extend him with a new contract. But now you kind of open up the floodgates for teams to possibly trade. And there's already been kind of rumors of teams like the Dallas Cowboys, Jerry Jones, he's so-called going all in. Obviously, he hasn't done anything in the offseason, but could he possibly be wanting to trade for Najee Harris? Wouldn't be surprised if that would actually be a good look. But, he's got a lot to pay. He's got to pay Dak, he's got to pay CeeDee Lamb, and he's got to he's got to pay CeeDee Lamb first. He's got to pay Micah Parsons, then he's got to pay Dak. So he's got a lot of checks to write. But you add a Najee Harris, that's one of the top backfields in that NFC East division. You look at the Philadelphia Eagles, they picked up Saquon Barkley, Jalen Hurts for the Philadelphia Eagles. Fly, Eagles, fly. You look at the Washington Commanders, they got Jaden Daniels now, and coupled with Brian Robertson, the running back from the LA Chargers, Austin Eckler. So that's pretty dynamic backfield. Then if you look at the New York Giants, they kind of need to fill that void. So could they possibly be in the sweepstakes for a Najee Harris? So if you're the Dallas Cowboys, yes, you went 12-5 the past couple seasons, but you don't want to fall behind to guys like the Eagles or the Washington Commanders under Dan Quinn, Jay Daniels, especially in the running back room. So I want to discuss that Najee. Hopefully they give him a contract, but they probably might just try to franchise him next year if he runs for another 1,000 yards, which he will in his third year. And Najee has lost weight. He has become much more slimmer. He looks a lot more quicker, more agile. He still has his powers from the videos I've seen. So, listen, I would have not declined his fifth-year option because you'd rather have him in that division more so because, listen, AFC North, that's a lot. It gets cold. You got places like Pittsburgh, Cleveland, Cincinnati, Baltimore. Those places are cold, physical football, and you're going to have dynamic running game. So that's just my 2 cents. But that's what we do here at Football University. Joe Stapleton says, true, and the snapper can actually hike the ball. Yeah, like I said earlier, I think that can help with Jalen Milroe. Some of the negative plays offensively that we had, having a good snapper, having better offensive line play. And I think all that will get ironed out under DeBoer's offense, led by Nick Sheridan. Listen, Najee on another team, he's got a good chance to win a Super Bowl. He can come to the Niners. I mean, I don't know. Listen, I know the Niners would love him. I mean, if John Lynch pulled that off, but you got Christian McCaffrey. I mean, I think he's one, probably, if not the top running back outside when it comes to production. You know, obviously Derrick Henry, but Christian McCaffrey, you've already set at the running back position, in my opinion. You got a really good backup. I think Elijah Wilson is his name. So I think the Niners are set in the backfield, in my opinion. But to your point regarding Najee, you know, you put him on the Dallas Cowboys, that really adds a lot, especially if they're able to retain Dak, CeeDee Lamb, and Micah Parsons. I think that does a lot for them. That makes the Cowboys that much more impressive, in my opinion. You don't want them to go to a team like, the Niners could use them, but you look at a team like the Giants, they just lost Saquon Barkley. You look at a team, the Cincinnati Bengals, they'll be glad to take them. You know, they're divisional rivals, but they would love to have Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, Najee Harris. That's a pretty effective running back, offensive weaponry that the Cincinnati Bengals could have. So, listen, I just think declining his option now, teams might try to trade for him and then pay him. So you look at a team like the Tennessee Titans. Listen, they've already acquired. They got Todd Spears out of Tulane last year. They got Calvin Ridley. They got J.C. Latham. They had DeAndre Hopkins. Will Levis is their quarterback. Listen, you could easily trade for a 3,000-yard rusher in that AFC. So listen, I don't know. That's why I said if I'm the Pittsburgh Steelers, I'm not devaluing the running back position. I'm picking up his 5th-year option, and I'm gonna try to either franchise and tag him the next year or try to get him to a lucrative deal that way I can solidify him for the next 2 or 3 years. That's just how I would take care of him. And it doesn't have to be top shelf money, because I feel like if you wait so much later, then you're going to have to pay more out of your pockets. But that's just how the NFL is. So hopefully that answers your question. C. Bama says Roll Tide. Jeff Stapleton says no. I don't know which team you're referring to, Jeff Stapleton, but listen, I would take care of Najee Harris. So we'll discuss. I know it's a lot of NFL talk, but I had so much to get to. Speaking of the NFL, let's go to Kool-Aid McKinstry. The New Orleans Saints revealed that their rookie numbers. Kool-Aid's getting number 34. He's getting Marshawn Lattimore's old number. I think that's going to be good for Kool-Aid. He's really going to perform well. I think they're going to have a really good secondary, probably the second or third best secondary in the NFC South. You know, obviously, you could easily go Atlanta, possibly number 1, Jesse Bates at safety, Terrell at cornerback. But that New Orleans Saints secondary with Marshawn Lattimore, Kool-Aid, listen, that's going to be interesting. But Kool-Aid, I think he'll probably end up with, after the roster cuts in fall camp, training camp, he'll probably get his true number, which would probably be like a 21 or number 1 or single digit. So that'll be interesting to see for Kool-Aid. Let's see. Let's get to a few. Oh, we don't have any. So we discussed Kool-Aid. I discussed next year's draft. I want to discuss Bama's betting odds. So, saw a tweet today regarding Alabama's, betting odds, Alabama football lines for this coming football season, from DraftKings.com. So right now at Wisconsin, they have us -7.5. Georgia, the big home game, which is right after Wisconsin, they have us +4.5. Tennessee -2, 8.5, -8.5 versus Missouri, +1 at LSU, -1.5 at Oklahoma, and -15 versus Auburn. I'm gonna tell you our toughest games, I believe, obviously Georgia game, having to go on the road at Tennessee and LSU is going to be really tough. And Oklahoma, I think Oklahoma is going to be a sneaky, unique, tough game, that we're going to have to be prepared for. It might be a little closer than expected. I think those are going to be our three toughest road games. And obviously at home, we'll have to take care of Auburn. Going to have to take care of Missouri. Missouri's a really good team. They bring back a lot. And if we can take care of Georgia, that would be fine. But Tennessee, LSU, and at Oklahoma, those are going to be some really challenging road games. But hopefully we progress through the season. And if we can handle those, I think we'll easily be in the SEC championship, in my opinion. But we got a lot to do. So we got to solidify the offensive line. We got to get our secondary performing right. And I think we will, by season's end. So let's get to Tavares Cheatham says, "What's up, Matt? What's up, Tavares? Hope all is well." Listen, Jeff Stapleton says Najee needs somebody to block, or he would have gotten 2 yards in the season. Now, to the Pittsburgh Steelers' defense, they did draft the offensive lineman from Washington. Yes, I believe. I think at the number 20th pick. So I think, that's a good pick for them. Hopefully that would help solidify the offensive line, help from them. I still think they need another receiver. I don't know who they picked up in the second, third, or fourth game. But, yeah, I do think they need another receiver outside of George Pickens to really stretch the field. But now you have Russell Wilson and possibly Justin Fields as your quarterback. That's going to help tremendously, having, I think, a better quarterback. And I do think it'll probably be Russell Wilson starting and Justin Fields being the backup. So that's just my take. So hopefully that will help Najee's offensive line play and having them more explosive. But if they can address the tight end and the quarterback, the receivers opposite George Pickens, I think they will be fine. Jeff Saban said, yes, Wisconsin's the second game of the season. Yeah, that's going to be a big game at Wisconsin, up there in Madison, Wisconsin. It's going to be pretty challenging. They have pretty good guys, pretty good teams, so it's going to be loud at that stadium. But, it's going to be our first big road test under Kalen DeBoer and with this team. So I think we'll be prepared. If we can come out that game with a victory, I think that's going to help us be prepared to play Georgia back at home. So, but that's been a great show. I know we discussed a lot of NFL talk, but I just want to say thank you all for tuning in. Jeff Stapleton, C. Bama, Tavares Cheatham, M. Davis, Velma Stoudemire, Douglas Caddell, Bobby Caddell, Lori Caddell, Cedric Caddell, James Knox, Bob Rutherford. Thank you all again. You all make the show. Humbled by you all tuning into the show. Hey, tell a friend, tell them to tune in next Monday where we'll discuss, all things encompassing football. And, we find a way to bring it back to the home team, Sweet Home Alabama, Roll Tide Roll. So you all have a blessed week. Listen, enjoy football. Hopefully some of the things we discussed, whether it's Tua's contract, things of that nature transpire, and we'll be ready to discuss it same time, same channel here on the CTS-Sports Room with me, Matt Caddell, on Football University. But in between time, enjoy your week, and I'll see you all next week. Thanks for tuning in.